Good evening and welcome to episode 10 of Reading Between the Lineups, the show that gets you to know the key people in the perfect team community. I am your host, DRC, and my guest tonight is Daniel Wallner. Might not be a name that you're familiar with, but it will be when we're done tonight. Daniel Wallner is the Perfect Team card artist, so every card within Perfect Team that you see today has his fingerprints all over it. He was the designer, the creator. He creates all of the various templates for the various decades and provides all of that work. And we got an opportunity to sit down with him and learn more about his process, learn more about some of his favorite cards, and also learn more about his sprawling duties at Out of the Park. You might be surprised to learn that many of the user interface screens that you look at and see all day, he had a hand in developing them as well. So definitely a good interview tonight. I think one that you guys will all get a kick out of. We're also going to have a 30,000 perfect point giveaway tonight, as we always do. So hopefully tonight is your lucky night to walk away with a 10,000 perfect point share of that. But before we get to the show, we've got a different kind of hit and run tonight. So normally for hit and run, I sit here and I jibber jabber about something that I feel strongly about in the Perfect Team community. I've been here and I've railed on the changes to the pseudo or changes to the opener follower mechanic. I've sit here and gone on my soapbox about this and that. I walked you through how I made my decision to purchase the SE Bogs, and this is really my soapbox. And someone in the community said, enough talking. I'd love to see some teaching. I'd love to see some doing. And so that's what we're going to open the show with tonight. I am going to start with an absolute blank slate within Excel and throw data at it and show you guys how I do maybe the first couple steps in building out a workbook that's going to serve as an asset to you. A workbook that's going to help you make the decisions you need to make to improve your main league team, to improve your tournament league team, and to really get our hands dirty as opposed to walking through talking points before the show tonight. So hopefully you guys like that idea. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this segment. As we've got Mac Jax gifting a sub over to M-Dub. Thanks so much, Mac Jax, and M-Dub, welcome to the clubhouse, buddy. Great video that you produced yesterday. Awesome. All right, so let's get out of PowerPoint and get into our live demo. And I'm almost embarrassed that Angered Unicorn is here because he might just be the GOAT when it comes to data extraction, when it comes to telling you who you need on your tournament rosters. If you haven't seen any Angered Unicorn streams, you're definitely missing out, and you need to check those out. And Chuck gifting a sub over to Angered right now. Thanks so much, Chuck. All right, let's get into Perfect Team. Okay, so we're going to do tournament data tonight, but the process is going to be the same no matter what you're doing. So let's go ahead and go into one of the many tournaments that I've entered and lost. I'm on a cold streak like you wouldn't believe here. So let's go ahead and grab a tournament that we know is done. We'll grab this one up here. Angered Unicorn with dirty lies in the chat. And so you want to click that examine button. That examine button is going to get you into the league to see what happened. And in this particular one, you see it was a brutal round one loss for the Nomads to the Gunnison Stoneflies, popular Discorder. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on statistics. So it's right in your tournament dropdown, tournament statistics. And then from here, we'll click on sortable stats. And what we've got here is we've got all our stats, and this is my extract, but just for the sake of the broadcast tonight, we'll go ahead and start completely fresh. So why don't we customize our view? We'll go ahead and dump everything that's in here, start completely with a blank slate, and pick out some categories that we can quickly get some use out of. Okay, so we've got no categories in here. Let's get started. Why don't we go card ID? I like the tag controls because that's going to create an empty column for us. We'll get name in here. We're going to get best career team. So best career team is a column that really helps for tournaments because that's going to give a total tournament team name instead of just a city. Where that's going to be relevant is in case you're running tournament data and you've got two teams that go by the city name Chicago. You're not going to be able to discern those teams from one another. And that's really where this best career team comes in because it's going to give you that full name that's going to be very valuable for you. We'll go ahead and do bats and throws with the short abbreviation. And then let's get into some hitting stats. So I want a lot here. Give me the majority of what we're talking about here because all of this stuff is going to be useful to us. We'll get strikeouts. Did I miss walks? No, I got walks. And you'll see that I'm skipping over the rate stats. The reason I'm skipping over the rate stats is because it's much better to calculate those than it is to sum those. Because let's say you extract 5 tourneys and then Scott Spezio batted 100, 300, 700, and then a couple of middling performances at 250. The outlier performances are going to ruin your average. So averaging those will, one, not be representative of the true performance, and they also won't be weighted by the number of plate appearances that they had. So let's ignore all of these rate stats like OPS, average, on base, slug. Leave all of that out, and let's just get these stats in here. All right, perfect. So we like our extract. We're going to click OK. And then what we want to do once we've made our extract is we want to name it. So we'll call this Reading Between the Lineups Episode 10. And then we'll save it. All right. And so now whenever you're in here, you're going to have within your options here the ability to pull your Reading Between the Lineups Episode 10 data. And you can toggle between other extracts. For mine, as far as what I do with my data, I've got 2 core ones that I use. I've got my hitters full and I've got my pitchers full, and it doesn't look too dissimilar to this. It's a bit more granular. It's got defensive stats in it. It's got catcher ERA. But for the sake of simplicity and getting us started here, I'm going to dumb it down to just these categories. All right, perfect. I'm going to try to keep poking my head over and seeing if there's any questions popping up in the chat, but until there are, I'll just keep rocking and rolling. Okay, I like to sort mine by plate appearances before I pull it out, and then the button that we're looking for when we've got everything that we like. Oh, I missed one step. Filter. So let's clear this filter out. If there is no filter on here, then what you're going to get is a billion cards that are sitting on people's reserves that did not participate in this tournament. Look at this. The majority of the data will have no plate appearances. So what you want to do is create a filter for 1 plate appearance or more for hitters. And the way you're going to do that is customize. Click this little box here. We're going to choose a category. We're going to choose batting stat, plate appearance. And then we're going to say plate appearances is at least 1. Boom. And then once we've done that, all of that bad data goes away. Bye-bye, bad data. You're not going to muddy up my spreadsheet. All right, perfect. So we've got our filter the way we like it. With 1 plus plate appearance, we've got our data columns the way we like it. And so we are going to go ahead and extract. And so when you do so, you get a browser. You get a browser tab that has exactly what's on your screen here. Now, what's the quickest way to take this and do something with it? You want to click anywhere within the browser and then press Control A. That's going to highlight everything for you. Then press Control C. That's going to copy everything for you. And then let's go to our completely clean workbook here. And we're going to want to paste it, but we don't want to paste it and get all the HTML formatting gunk. We just want to paste it special with the destination formatting here, which is effectively just pasting our values. And so that comes in here like so. And now we've got the starting of a workbook here. We are on our way. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to format this as a table. Table functionality in Excel is excellent at allowing you to grow data sets, allowing you to see when your data sets are incongruent and when you've got a problem. And the way you do that is this button right here, Format as Table. You can click any of these formats that you want. I just normally do the basic one. And then the one deviation from the default, where it's going to auto recognize where your data is I'm going to go down to row number 2 instead of row number 1, like so. And boom, we have got our table. Now, the one thing that I add, and the reason that I have that control button on there, which within the game is just the ability to click this toggle. So there's no purpose for me to use that within the game, but within the spreadsheet, I love how it creates this empty column for me. And this is where I put in the tournament number. So this is tournament 5428. And so what I would do here is I would write 5428 and then spread that down. And so as we add more and more and more and more tournament data, we are able to filter by tournament number if we are worried about a moving meta. Maybe every 100 tournaments or so, every 500 tournaments or so, we go ahead and lop off the old data because it's not as relevant anymore because the meta has shifted and people have gone away from this or gone away from that. Or maybe there's 20 new cards in rotation that are all more powerful than the ones before it. This is going to give you the ability to do that, whereas without that, it's going to be guesswork. And Chuck asking if I'm using Office 365. I think so. It's whatever is a more recent version of Excel or Office, but this should be similar functionality. I mean, the last X many Excel releases are just like this. All right, so we have got our data. It's sitting in Excel and it's pretty. We've made it a table. Now let's go ahead and build a pivot table. Now that's a scary word for people that haven't gotten used to it, but it's super easy. So just to redo it here, you click on the Insert tab on the ribbon, you click Pivot Table. It's going to automatically choose your entire range here, which is your table 2. And so as your table grows, this is never going to need to be updated because it's always going to be enclosed within table 2. So we're good. And we click OK. All right, now we've got a completely blank slate here and a weird looking screen that might be a little intimidating. So let's just start playing with it so we can get comfortable. So the way that you can use the right side of your screen here, which is your pivot table fields, to start populating your pivot table is real simple. It's drag and drop. So for example, let's take name and go ahead and throw it in the rows and look at that. All the names, all the unique names of the people from that tournament just got popped in here. We know that there's a million Aussies in there, but in this pivot table, one Aussie. So just like that, it's almost like a little bit of an aggregator engine, just like that. We can throw plate appearances right in here. And look at that, we're summing plate appearances. And so we know within this one tournament how plate appearances were dispersed. And just very simply here, we can even sort by that. If we want to see, hey, who batted the most? Who had the most plate appearances in this tournament? You click this little drop down here, click more sort options, and then go down to descending, and then toggle to sum of plate appearances. And just like that, we know that Ozzie Smith batted the most in this tournament, and that Roger Cedeno batted the second most, followed by Coleman and Davalillo. And that's great and all. But plate appearances doesn't really help me build a team. It just tells me who's meta. That tells me who everyone else is playing. So let's get WAR in there. Who is the best player in this tournament? That's going to be more valuable to me. And so we just dragged in WAR in the values part of the pivot table. And then we'll do the exact same thing. We'll resort it. And instead of sorting by plate appearances, we'll sort by WAR. And boom. We see that Ozzie Smith, Cedeno, Coleman, and Davalillo. Wait a minute, that's the same order. That's a coincidence. Are the leaders in plate appearances the same as the most valuable players? Or is it not a fair fight because they're getting more plate appearances because they're used more frequently? Wait a minute. Maybe we need to turn WAR, instead of an aggregation stat, into a rate stat so that everyone's on an even playing field and we have the opportunity to compare Ken Oberkfell and his 142 plate appearances to Ozzie and his 1154. So the way we're going to do that is to go over to this fields section. And so it's within the pivot table analyze part of the ribbon. And we go to fields. We're going to click it. We're going to get a limited selection of options there. And Eleanor, yes, this is for bronze, but you could do this for any meta. And you're going to click calculated field. And so here is where we build our own calculations for all of those rate stats we left behind. If you remember, when we were clicking our columns that we wanted for our data extract, we didn't choose average, didn't choose OBP, didn't choose slug, and that's because we're going to simply build them here. So let's create a calculated field called average calc. And then we know that batting average is really, really simple. It's how many times have you gotten a hit divided by how many at-bats do you have. That's simple. And then we click OK. It's going to automatically add it to our table. And so we've got batting average there. And no one is used to seeing batting average with, what is that, 9 decimal points? So we can very quickly change that as well once my Excel is done thinking about it. And so the way that you would change that is to highlight this entire column. Let's turn it into a number. And then let's give it 3 decimal points, because that's how we like to look at average. And so this has now solved the problem of extracting a bunch of averages, but not being able to tell what the true average is. We now have that. But average still doesn't tell us how valuable someone is. So let's do the rate stat thing with WAR, because that's a great approximation for total player value, as it's going to collate defensive efficiency along with offensive production. So we'll go back to pivot table analyze. We'll go back to calculated field, and we're going to do WAR per 600. And so what we're doing here is, instead of just looking at WAR in the aggregate, we are going to divide it by plate appearances to discern a WAR per plate appearance number, and then we're going to multiply that by 600 so that it approximates a full season of play. So let's go find WAR. Let's divide WAR by plate appearances, and then let's multiply by 600. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. We are coming together here. We'll reformat that. We'll leave it at 2 decimal places. And then now let's sort by that. And then we'll finally, for the first time, learn something with this data. All right. So what we've learned is that we've got some crazy outliers that had a very low plate appearance count. And then our first person that actually had a decent number of plate appearances is Darren Erstad, coming in at a rockin' 7.12 WAR for 600. Angered Unicorn learning what calculated fields are. Welcome to the club. All right, beautiful. All right, so anyone can look at this and say, wow, Chris, this is cool, but I don't really know what I can do with this, because we've got all these outliers in here, and these outliers don't really help me much. So let's get rid of them. So what we're going to put on here is a value minimum, because we want to have some threshold that batters need to be above for us to be willing to look at their data. So on a 1 tournament basis, maybe let's set that at 100 plate appearances. And so we'll go into this filter here. We'll do a value filter, because we are filtering on our value, and we're going to say that we want plate appearances to be above 100. In doing so, we have gotten rid of all of those small samples, and we are now looking at just the players that batted more than 100 times in this tournament. And now we have a clear picture of who won this tournament. Darren Erstad, MVP of the tournament here, 177 plate appearances, rocking a 7 WAR, which is incredibly high. Even the best of the best players over a large sample will be nowhere near 7. We have a really strong Jack Hanahan performance, really strong Coco Crisp. And we've been able to quickly break down which players really performed well. And what we can do very simply is, let's say we don't want to look at this on a player basis. but we want to see it on a team basis. Well, let's just do something simple here. We like our view. We like seeing it by player. Let's see it by team. So let's get rid of name. So I'm just going to drag it up. Drag it up. And then where's my best team? I put best team in there. And then let's resort it. And boom. Look at this. We can now see which teams perform the highest from a war for 600 perspective. And we see the one-hit wonders team-wide. Team-wide had a 6.46 war per 600. That's incredible. How did they lose in the first round? Their pitching must have been atrocious. And then you see the Naperville Nomads coming in with a rockin' 4.86. How did they lose in the first round? They should never lose in the first round. Aside from being everyone's favorite, they had the second best offensive production in the tournament. Yeah, Longhorn knows. Longhorn knows. You see the Gunnison Stoneflies down here. Let's see who ended up winning that tournament. Thunderbirds beating the Outlaws. The Stoneflies made it one more round. So they played spoiler for me and then got quickly dispatched in 5 games by the Indians. All right, so here's what we've got, guys. We've very quickly, and I've done this in, the stream is like 10 minutes old, barely. And I've very quickly showed you guys how to surface the top hitters in a given tournament and shown you how to surface the top teams. And then let me show you how to add to this list. Because one of the questions that I get from people is, yeah, I can do the data extract, I can pull it out of there, but then what? Then I've got a million different spreadsheets with a million different tournaments. There's no way for me to have an additive way of building them one on top of the other. So let's get out of this tournament. Let's get out of 54-28 and go find another one. How about we do 54-61? Man, I'm ice cold right now. Look at all those eliminateds. Time to rebuild the team. Whoever did a stream telling everyone who all the good players are in bronze really has it coming to them. All right, so we're back where we started. We did tournament, statistics, sortable stats, and then we've got another instance of exactly the same layout of data for a different tournament. So we're just going to repeat that same process. We click report. We click write report to disk. It's going to pop open the web browser, Control A, Control C, go to our workbook. And then all we need to do, and this is the best part, this is the absolute best part. You just drag to the bottom of the screen, you right click on the row beneath your data, and you do that same paste mechanism, and boom, your table automatically updates. So table 2 has just grown the exact size of this data set. And then if you choose to be like me and put in the tournament number 5461, we put that in right here. We drag that down. Sweet, huh? Now we've got double the data size. Well, now do we have to go do all this stuff again? Do we have to go rebuild all these reports? No. You don't have to rebuild a darn thing. You come here, you go to Pivot Table Analyze, you click this drop down and click Refresh All. And then boom. All of a sudden, we've got 2 tournaments of data and a growing sample size of all of our players. As you saw, the sample size of players now over 100 plate appearances nearly doubled. So we've got more players to analyze. We've got bigger samples now. We've now got more teams within our team view. So we are just rocking and rolling, and we haven't really had to do anything hard yet. We had to do this very simple calculated field. We had to dump the data in, and then do a little bit of dragging and dropping, and we're on our way. And so this is the foundation of everything you need to do, or everything that you can do, from an observed stats perspective. Get the data out, and then start playing with it, and you will run into questions that I have not covered and a simple Google will often answer them. I mean, Excel is so widely used, and spread heads out there are so helpful. There's only a million different Excel forums where if you type, calculated field XYZ problem, someone's going to have an answer. There's probably going to be 10 answers that pop up right on Google for you. So if and when you do get stuck, it's very easy to get yourself unstuck. But when you do it in exactly this way, which is exactly what I do, I don't do anything more complicated than this. It's just all building on this foundation. And then you grow to the point where you've got a really big data set where you can do cool things. So for example, with the data set and with the fields that I have there, I can do things like looking at my tourney roster over time and seeing how successful it's been. I can see my Pythagorean win. I can see my overall win percentage. I can see what the tourney builds have been. And so I'm a psycho in that I maniacally alter my team. So if you want to see all iterations of my team on the same chart, you could, and we will. And so you can track those evolutions over time so that you know whether you're getting worse, getting better, you're honing in on the answer, or getting further from it. And you can do that for any team. You can look at the Pythagorean leaders by team. You see the Palatine Plutos are the gold standard in bronze teams in my data set. You can look at win percentage by team. You see the Daniel Lafferty are the top winners within this data set. You can see how each team does on a round-by-round basis. You see that my current build, which I'm very angry with, and they're losing a lot, is really terrible in the 4th and 5th round, and not even all that great in the 3rd round. Whereas my prior build had a lot more green. I need to revert back to that. But definitely don't let fear of getting involved or fear of being able to figure this stuff on out on your own stop you if you have an interest in starting to dig into this data. Because really the world is your oyster once you do. And this is really the foundation upon which I build every team. Any questions before we get back to the show? See, before we get back to what you guys actually came here for. Yeah, Chuck asking if I gather for 32-team tournaments. I do really limit it to the 32-team tournaments because you get so much more data. Think about it. There's 32 teams versus 16, so that's already double, which means you're going to get that many more first-round matchups, that many more second-round matchups, and they're all best of 7. So a best of 5 data perspective, I haven't done the analysis, but I would estimate it's probably a third the data of a Bow 7. Don't quote me on that, but I do try to limit my data extracts to Bow 7s, but I do have some Bow 5s when I was just building this out. I haven't put any of the big tournaments in here. I know that a long time ago that used to break the ability to extract the data. I think that's been fixed since, but this is mostly Bow 7 data. All right, Walnut's got a question. Have you been tracking the slots of the winners in their data? Slots. So how would one ascertain a slot? Like calling this slot 1, this slot 2, and then seeing which slots end up winning more often than not is the question? Yeah, I haven't done anything with looking at where people are lined up on this game board. And I think that's really where you're going with that question. Erie GM, asking what the colors represent. So let me get back to what I was looking at there. So the yellow here represents which players I have on my current build. But the colors here represent kind of a good, bad, with more green being good, more red being bad. And that being like a quick way to surface outliers that need to be dealt with or that need to be considered before potentially putting them within a lineup. Longhorn asking if there's a way to track it. Not that I know of. OMG Puppy saying Bo 5 is a different game. I'd be curious, Puppies. I'd be curious if someone was willing to put in the work to extract the data. Like right now, I'm sitting on 114,000 lines of Bo 7 data. Like if someone were to amass that sample size for Bo 5, like how different would the WAR numbers be? How different would the pitching numbers be? You can definitely get away with less stamina in a Bo 5, but how profound of an impact would that have on the meta and the optimal team build? I don't know the answer to that. Oh, Erie GM, I forgot to show you. So I told you what it was, I didn't show you. So this can be very easily done. So you just highlight whatever column you want to put that on. Let's say we put it on CERA. And then you can pick your color scale. So you click conditional formatting, color scale, and let's say we want green to be good and red to be bad. Catcher ERA is a bad one to do that with. Let's do it with base running. So we want green to be good and red to be bad. So let's go ahead and click that. And then all of a sudden we've got this color coded. And then as you fly through, you see the standouts. You see Roger Bresnahan at second. You see Vince Coleman jumping out like crazy in left field along with Roger Cedeno. And then Mike Minoski. And Roger Cedeno in center, and then Cedeno in right as well. So it's a one-click thing, and that will auto-update for you as well. All right, guys. I'm going to close this up, and we'll get to the interview now. But if you have any questions on this, let me know. This was a 101 type course of this, just trying to get you into the data. If this is something that's intimidated you, or the pivot table concept is something that you just weren't comfortable with, I was hoping that I was able to show you tonight that it's really not that difficult to get into, and trial and error and drag and drop will get you on your way pretty darn quickly. All right. Let us load up this video and get the party started. Joining me tonight for Reading Between the Lineups is Daniel Wallner, which is a name you might not have heard before today, but he plays a very important role within Perfect Team. Daniel Wallner is the card artist for all of the lovely cards that you see within Perfect Team. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And how are you?
Hello, thank you that you are calling me. I'm really fine. It's in the evening here in Germany, and we have the third Advent, and Christmas is coming. So a lot of work to do, but I'm happy.
Absolutely. And we thank you for joining us. This is our first international Reading Between the Lineups, and we are very honored. So why don't we start out with you sharing a little bit about yourself, Daniel. Who is Daniel Wallner?
Yeah, I'm 93 years old. I'm living in Germany, in Hamburg, and I'm a graphic artist for now, I don't know, 20 years, more or less. I started studying when I was 21 with graphic design. And after this, I worked in many jobs, mostly in the game industry. And 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I started at OTP Developments.
And so Perfect Team has been around for 3 versions now. And you mentioned that you started with Out of the Park 5 years ago. So what were you doing with Out of the Park before Perfect Team existed?
Before Perfect Team existed, I mostly do the in-game graphics, the user interface, and media graphics like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like this. And we have the second game. We have Hockey Manager. I make the graphics for too.
Excellent. So, besides Out of the Park, what other art projects are you working on at present?
At the moment, only Out of the Park baseball.
Well, it's very busy to create artwork for thousands of cards, so I can understand that that's more than a full-time job, probably.
And I'm more or less the only graphic designer in our company, so I do all the user interface and the Facebook stuff and the stuff for Rich, Steam, for This Week in Perfect Team, and I do all art. So there's a lot of stuff to do.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's no shortage of projects in your work queue waiting for you to get around to them. And there's always the impending deadlines of new game launches that need to happen. So I'm sure you're always kept quite busy.
Yeah, especially in the moment, because now we're starting with the 22's version of OOTP Baseball. And or we are in the middle of it. And yes, winter is always busy time.
So how did you come to work for Out of the Park to begin with? Was it through knowing Marcus in Germany, or was it through some other means?
No, before that, I worked for several game companies, and but I searched for a full-time job, and I think I found it on the internet. And it was a company in Hamburg, and I lived for, 7 or 8 years in Hamburg. I never heard of a company. And then I found out that they're searching for someone. And then I was there. And Marcus and I, we have a good understanding in the first second. And yes.
Excellent. And then in the beginning, I imagine your roles and responsibilities were mostly focused on in-game graphics, user interface graphics, and the like.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, user interface was my first jobs, and I can remember 1 month before my first release, we decided to make a new web page, and I made the complete web page new, and this was really a tough job for me because I never done web design before. Yeah,
web design is absolutely an inexact science and something that requires constant tinkering. So I don't envy that responsibility and task being put upon you if you weren't experienced in that domain.
Yeah, that was really tough. But I learned a lot, so it was a good job.
So I'm curious, Daniel, are you do you consider yourself a baseball fan?
To be honest, no. I'm so sorry. I really tried, really. And I think when we do not have COVID-19, I want to go this summer with Marcus to a baseball game, because I never was on a live baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
That is my last attempt to understand the culture more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in the end, I'm not really a sport fan. I look when we have sometimes I look football, but not really, and it's not my time of my part of sport. I'm sorry.
No apology necessary. Your artwork speaks for itself. It adds layers and context to the game, and you don't necessarily need to be a huge baseball fan to accomplish that end goal. I'm curious, what hobbies are you into? So when you're not doing your day job for Out of the Park and designing UI graphics or designing baseball cards, what are you doing for fun?
I love playing computer games. I have 2 kids, so most of the time I have to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
I do parkour. I
love
making sport outside. It's it's a good thing when you're all the time on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to be outside. And I do woodworking. I think you call it in English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I
very
think.
interesting. A very wide variety of hobbies there between parkour and woodworking. Very very impressive stuff there. What would you say is your go to? What gets you the most excited? Is it getting outside and exercising a bit with the parkour? Is it finishing off a piece of woodworking? What would you consider to be your
Mm,
most undying passion there?
I think I need parkour to calm down, and I need the energy to be outside and jumping around, doing sport, meeting with friends. So this is something I have to do every week, or yeah, I need it. And yeah, woodworking, working when I have a project, I really love to do it. But with two kids, often there's not enough time.
Right.
Or you are together with your kids and do woodworking, so that's okay too.
So I've never met anyone before that was into parkour. As I've seen videos here and there, it looks like
Yeah,
very
I'm not
very
one of these
dangerous.
guys.
It looks like the type of hobby that can end you up with a broken arm rather quickly. Have you sustained any injuries while exhibiting your
Oh,
hobby?
I broke my foot last year, but that was the first time I injured me with parkour. Never before.
Hmm.
After that, Marcus told me, "Do this never again, because you're only graphic artist here."
Too
So
important. Yeah, we can't miss you. The game needs you too much. So let's
yeah,
talk a bit more about the game and specifically about your artistic process that you bring to the game. So I'm
yeah.
curious to know more about the programs that you use, the turnaround times that you're under on, say, a per card basis. Like, walk us through what it's like as you go about completing your very cumbersome workload for each game cycle.
Yeah, yeah. Mm, most of the time, I work in Photoshop. I think that's 90% of the time. Yeah, it's Photoshop work. Second program, sometimes I need Illustrator for some fast vector sketches, but yeah, Photoshop is my main tool to work with. Um, yeah, often I get a request from Rich or from Marcus what they need. Or when we begin with a new game, Marcus and I sit together and we talk about new features and all the cards we need. And then I have a big long list with stuff that we need for the next round. Um, this list is every year getting bigger and bigger. And most of the time I start with the logo. That's the first thing I do to get a feeling how we want to go, where we want to go. And I'm looking in the internet for new inspiration, what the art style is in the moment, and try to get the feeling to how we can get a new look. And yeah, after this, most I start with UI stuff, finishing the new UI for the game. That's nearly finished at the moment. And next week begins all the fun, the stuff I really love to do, and this is creating the baseball cards, because
Excellent.
that's my passion. I really love to work on them.
Yeah, let's
So
dig in more on that, on the baseball cards themselves. So, what research, if any, do you do about the players before starting? Now, I know it's completely non-feasible to research fully all of these cards when you have thousands on your workload. But what is your process for understanding the players, if maybe on a key player by key player basis, versus researching them all? But how do you go about that process?
um, most in the beginning, we talk together in the team what we need new, what cards we need new, what stuff. And most of the time I search in baseball databases because we had the great idea in the beginning that we want to make cards from every decade. Because for the old cards we can't use the real player pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So we searched for a solution how we can make some a variety of cards and how we can solve this with one graphic designer. So I make templates for every decade, and the programmer guys in the end make the different players and decide which player we need and what player pictures he gets, and yeah. And then I searched the whole internet for all the old trading card stuff, what there is in the beginning, all the baseball cards and then other trading card stuff. And I looked what for illustration styles the decades have. So maybe when you are in the 20s, I looked for all old 20 posters and 20 artworks and old radio stuff, or in the 80s old video shows and so on, and try to find a style that you can recognize, but that's not the same. I don't want to copy the old card. I want that you have the feeling it is one of the old card, but I don't want to copy them.
Yeah, so trying to capture the essence of the era, capture the essence of the decade that you're designing the card for. Now, as it comes to matching a specific card art to a specific player, is that done by you, or is that done by the Out of the Park team, where you're providing them, say, 50 different card arts for the 1920s, and then they match card art to player, or is that something that you do?
No, I make them template with different varieties of players, and the team decides which player gets the template and how it has to look in the end. I give them different layers of art and cards and claims, and we put them together with a program.
Excellent. So as it comes to refreshing the look year to year, the content you create is excellent, and it really forms a basis and forms like a look and feel of the given game. And the card art this year was excellent, and I expect the card art to be excellent next year. Given that it's not that old, it's only a year old. How do you go about refreshing that and finding a way to take a 1-year-old design and make it look new and vibrant again?
Yeah, sometimes it's a bit of heartbreaking because some card designs I really love, and every year you have to decide, so, okay, we have to do it now new again. Sometimes I try to make only small changes when we read in the forums and community that they stuff like or don't like, and I try to listen to them. And then I have a big list of all cards I done, and that are a lot, I think. And try to find a new style, take a look where I can change something. And the teams sometimes provide me with new ideas when they found cards I really love, and they send them to me, and I take a look at it if I can use parts of this or a bit of style from them. Yeah, that's sometimes it's not easy, because I think it's every year it's getting harder and harder to find new ways and new styles. But it's the fun part of the game for me.
Absolutely. Speaking of the content that you've developed in PT 19, 20, and 21, is there a content set that sticks out as your favorite, the one that you like above all the others?
I really loved the last year. I think we added them last year. The 10s or 20s, the first decade cards. I really loved them. To illustrate them, it was a bit of a lot of work to make the portraits of the guys. And so last year, I think we have only 6 of them. And hopefully I can make a lot of more of them because I like to adopt the style of this decade. I think it was in 19. Yeah.
So there were just 6 templates for that era because it was a lot of work and a lot of manual artistic labor to create them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we had not 6 portraits, and then there are different frames or different banners. So in the end, there are a lot of templates we combine together to get a great variety of cards.
Sure. So mixing and matching the bordering and the portrait artwork itself to be able to come up with unique combinations, even when you have a fixed number of templates.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's right. So for every decade, I try to make a lot of different templates so that we have in the end a lot of different cards.
What was the most challenging content set for you to create?
I think I have to look at all the cards. I think in the beginning, I really stuck in the 80s because I love them so much, or I love this time as a visual artist. But then sometimes you have an art in your mind, but you work on it, and you have to think it don't come out. There's something is missing. And I know when I was making this set, really, I have it in my head, but it didn't come out, and it take a lot of time. And but now I really like them.
And what was the most fun to work on of all the content sets? You said that the first decade there was your favorite. The 80s was challenging. What was the most fun?
I really like the Necro League. That was a lot of fun. I don't know why. I think maybe because of the colors and that's artist special. But I really like the brush I used there. Oh, and the 1940s. The card was really fun too.
Yeah, the Negro League set is my personal favorite. That one, all of those
cool.
cards really seem to just pop off the page and really stand out. And whenever you pull one in a pack or you're playing one, like it just seems like those cards really are noticeable and really
cool.
really were well done. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. That's fun. That's cool. Yeah, I really like texture when you have old cards and you have the scratches and the bruises on it, and you see they are old. I like to make this to get some dirt here and some old paper there and put it together and try to make look them that they are used cards. Yeah.
So when the content team is working with you to create the templates needed for a given era, are you given a quantity and an inventory of certain poses? For example, give me 10 left-handed batters, 10 right-handed batters, and then, 5 left-handed pitchers. And
Yes.
Are you given the request from a pose perspective?
Yeah, they mostly Marcus told me we need 10 batters, we need 10 left-handers, and I say, okay, so much new poses, okay. So it depend on which decade I made. Sometimes it's a work I really like to make 20 different poses. But sometimes I'm not so good in drawing humans, or I think I'm not so good in drawing humans. So sometimes it's not so easy to get the feeling that it's a pitcher and not a guy who has a broken arm.
Do you find it harder to draw hitters or harder to draw pitchers?
Pitchers. They look weird sometimes when they're standing or pitching. Sorry.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And so are you oftentimes looking at pictures of pitchers in the act as you are modeling and you are creating your art from?
Yes. I try a lot of pictures and videos and try to catch the right pose. So, I mean, you are all baseball fans and you know how a baseball pitcher has to look like. And I want that they have to look like a baseball pitcher and not like a weird person.
Yeah, and there are certain players that have very signature looks to them, whether it's their batting stance looking a certain way or it's a pitcher that hits a certain angle with their release point that is just so uniquely them. You know, that would be something that would be so cool to get into the game. I guess I wonder how practical it would be to go all the way down to the player level to say, you know, Daniel, we are looking to capture the essence of Randy Johnson, who was a very tall left-handed pitcher that looked a very unique way. Like, do you think that it will ever get to the point where you are going to that granular a level?
I think that we hopefully sometimes we'll have maybe special cards or something like this, or for special rewards where you really have an iconic pitcher or hitter. And I hope so, that we will get this.
Are you familiar with the card Doc Ellis within the Perfect Team universe? Does that ring a bell to you?
No, sorry.
No, it's okay. So that card stands out as unique, given that it has kind of like a psychedelic background, which ties in pretty closely with some personal life moments for Doc Ellis. And I didn't know if that was your idea or if that could have been done by the content team.
Maybe that was a content team.
So what are you most...
I really hope in the future that we can do more specific stuff so that we have more time for this, and maybe I get some more help and we can do a lot of more different cards.
Yeah, from a timing perspective, at what point do you start on the specific card art for the coming year's game? How much runtime do you give yourself?
I start somewhere in September, but not all the time. So every time in September, when I have a little bit free time in my daily business, I start to look around the internet for styles and take a look what card I can do. And then the really hard work on cards is starting mostly in the beginning of November. Yes.
So at this point, how far are you into your template creation and completion for PT22?
I think I have what it is called, I have 3 packs are ready that are really when I begin with the cards, I start most with new life cards. So the new life card is done. That's and I think I have 2 or 3 other sets done too. And I think that's the status.
Sure. So as you're talking to the Perfect Team players, talking to people like myself who spend hours and hours and hours in this game, what should we be excited about seeing within Perfect Team 22? What can you tell us without giving anything away that you can't give away that should have us excited about the card art that you have in store for us for next year?
Rich told me, Daniel, don't say anything. So I really can't say specific stuff, but I think it's there will be awesome stuff for you to look at, and I will redesign everything complete. So I think you will. I really love the new life cards. So I really like the style of it, and yeah, I think there will come some awesome designs you will hopefully love. I hope so.
Which one is your favorite for next year's game? Without telling us anything about the design itself, which one of you that you've completed to this point is your favorite?
Let me take a look. I think this is the 90s. Give me a short sec.
Sure.
I think it's the 90s card. Yes, the 90s.
The 90s. So we'll all be on the lookout for some really hot designs for some 90s cards. Excited to check that out once we get our hands on it in March, April of next year.
Yeah, and I really love the new pack design from the historical cards. That's every year this one of the fun projects too, to make new packs. And so the historic pack is something I really like too.
Yeah, so that's something that people are going to look at the entire game cycle. So, I'm sure it's tough to make a decision for an asset that is going to be so at the forefront of everyone's consciousness throughout the entire year. Like, did you design the landing page for Out of the Park as you load it, which has, the cards off to the right, and you've got, and I don't know if you chose the particular cards or someone on the content team did, but people have been looking at Bo Bichette and the guys that are in that selection for the entire game cycle. So I imagine it's a huge decision to decide which cards are going to be featured so prominently in that area.
Yeah, Marcus and I and the team, we discuss a lot of it, which card we want to show there. And it's not easy, but some cards you have to pick. The same is with the background for the card unpacking with Stadium we choose, and yeah.
That's very exciting. So will the Stadium be different, I have to assume?
Yes.
Very cool.
It would be boring when you have every year the same. That's not okay. That we can't do it.
Yep, absolutely. So that's the end of my questions that I had prepared for you. What else would you want the Perfect Team player or the Perfect Team community to know about the role that you have here or the content that's coming up? What did we not touch on that you'd love for people to be aware of?
For me, it's I never thought that so many guys loved my cards. So I'm really thankful and grateful for it, and happy that you guys find them cool. That's that's really makes me happy.
Well, I think that you should be happy. The community is definitely very appreciative of the work that you do. The work that you do is such a pivotal part of the game. It's basically what we're staring at the entire year as we're playing this game and trying to compete with one another. So it's absolutely the backdrop that adds layer and complexity and context to the game itself. So for that, we are very grateful, and I'm also very grateful that you were willing to jump on and do an interview with us. Maybe we'll have to have you back on after the cards get released, and we can dig into them with a bit more detail.
I hope so. We can do it. And when you guys have some cards you really love, or you think, oh, can you do something like this for your game? Please send them to me. I am happy to read your comments and to see what you say.
Perfect. So where can people post feedback that you will see it? Would it be on the message board, on the Discord? Where would be the best place for people to share that feedback?
I think best is the forum. Maybe we can open a thread there. I think it should be no problem.
Perfect.
I'm never on Discord, so the forum is the best, I think.
Perfect. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for your time this evening and for your insights into the process and background of creating the beautiful artwork that you do. And have a great night. So that was Daniel Wallner, an incredibly insightful look into the process that goes into perfect team card creation. So I was very appreciative that we got the opportunity for that. Let me get my screen up here in a second. Here we go. We are coming right back. Yeah, so I think that Vulcan, now who said in the chat? BF Hiltz. Yeah, one guy does all this work. He is designing all of these cards. There's a million cards in the game. In addition to that, he's designing elements of the UI. He's designing the outside of the packs design, all the various templates. Like it's an absolutely huge job, and he does it, and he does it well. And Out of the Park is definitely very lucky to have him. I would not think he's watching right now. He is in Germany, so that is about 7 hours ahead of me. So we're probably somewhere in the middle of the night right now. Yeah, my mind definitely blown as well. So let me go ahead and open up the giveaway while all our minds are blown. That should be open now. The way to enter the giveaway is to type in !ticket. You type in !ticket and you'll be into the drawing. We're going to draw 3 winners tonight. Each of those 3 winners will take home 10,000 perfect points. And the way that you can redeem those 10,000 perfect points are to send me on Discord a DM with your perfect team username with the correct capitalization. And then we'll get those points over to you typically within 12 hours or so. I want to thank Daniel Wallner for being willing to be interviewed and be willing to be so candid about his process. We recorded that interview Sunday night his time, early afternoon our time. And he was very, very friendly and willing to work and be easy to work with, as he had never been on Discord before and actually created an account to be interviewed. So that was very much appreciated. And then one thing that was in there that I think you kind of had to read between the lines to pick up on is one of the feedback and one of the things that people have talked about are how some of the turn of the decade cards, there's not a ton of designs there. And so many of the Babe Ruths all have the exact same card art, and that the process and creation of those templates was one of the more laborious of the templates that he has. And so there just were a lower quantity of them. So for the players from that era, there were less options to choose from, which is why I'm guessing all of the Babes came in with that same card art. So a little update here on the broadcast schedule, because we do have a deviation coming up here in the coming week. 2 days from today, we are still doing This Week in Perfect Team. We'll go on right after Chris and break down all his content. Coming Sunday, we'll do the Perfect League World Series on the Out of the Park Twitch channel. We had a doozy of a World Series this past Sunday between the Cartier Cutthroats and the Manchego Cheese, going 7, with many of those games coming down to the wire. And then on Tuesday, we're not going to do a show next week. Taking next week off for some holiday time, spending time with the family. It's going to be the kids' last day of school, and then we open up a nice stretch of days off in a row. So we're going to take off next Tuesday, and we'll be announcing here who the guest will be on our return show, which will be 12/29 here in just a second. Let's go ahead and draw the winner. So last chance to do !ticket. You've got 5 seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Giveaway closed. 3 winners coming at you. First one is MacJax. Good buddy MacJax. Congrats, as that's his first win in the channel here. Second winner is bottom of the 6th. And third is going to be JRonk9. I'm starting to believe that Wait Till Next Year is not even entering these, because he never wins them. When will Wait Till Next Year win? But congrats to our winners again. DM me your perfect team username with the appropriate capitalization, and then we will be good to go. We will be good to go. All right. So, again, next episode will be 2 weeks from tonight of this show. Next episode of Reading Between the Lineups. And the guest will be Doc Fury. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Doc is one of the absolute best players in this game, both in the main league, on the tourney scene. He's won many tournament special edition cards that are very hard to get your hands on. He's won tournaments that you wouldn't even dream of playing. Dominated some live card tournaments. Definitely someone who I personally have learned a lot from in my own personal out-of-the-park perfect team journey. And someone who has been actually very helpful in the early game. So the very first Perfect League expert that I got in touch with when I was trying to complete my live card collections early on, we're talking March, April, was Doc. And he was extremely helpful in putting up with my silly requests for a random 67 rated card on the Dodgers as I was trying to complete those live missions and not pay 3 arms and a leg for them. So it'll be fun to reminisce a bit with Doc and then to learn how he plays this game, what's made him successful, and really what he sees for the future of his play with this game and really where he would like this game to go. So looking forward to that. Am I missing anything? I think that's everything. What'd you guys think of the show? This was our first international guest. This is our first guest who has never played the game before. First guest who's not a baseball fan. So we went a little out of the box tonight. Yeah, bottom of the 6th, you can whisper me on Discord, or whisper me on Twitch if you don't do Discord, not a problem. Yeah, good stuff. So I definitely want to do more episodes like this where we're kind of touching on the periphery that is the Perfect Team universe. There are other ideas that I have and other guests that I've been attempting to get in touch with to varying degrees of success. So I'm definitely trying and efforting to kind of have a well-rounded approach to bringing on people that touch all various levels of this game and have various levels of relevance to it. So we'll definitely keep trying to do that going forward. At the core of the spirit of this show is learning more about the way people play, who people are, and I think we're still doing that when we're doing these a little off-the-wall type episodes. So glad to hear that there's some positive feedback within the chat there, and looking forward to some more creative interviews going forward too. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for me tonight. Congratulations to our winners for the giveaway, and thanks everyone for watching. With that said, I'm out of here.